It was a serene spring afternoon, and Donna Clara, at 62 years old, sat in her backyard under the shade of a mango tree. The bird's song mingled with the gentle sound of the breeze, and in her hands she held a notebook where she recorded her prayers and reflections. A Bible rested beside her, open to a verse about hope. For Clara, that moment was a refuge, a sacred space where she felt God speaking to her heart. Life after 50 for her was a journey of restoration, of body, soul, and purpose, guided by the certainty that God had never abandoned her, even in the darkest days. Clara saw life as a river, with calm stretches and turbulent ones, but always flowing toward a greater destination. As a young woman, she dreamed of being a teacher, traveling the world and building a family full of love. Life brought some of those dreams to fruition. She married Antonio, a man of few words, but a generous heart, and together they had 2 children, Mariana and Rafael. The house, once a stage for laughter and play, was now quieter, but her grandchildren brought renewed joy. For Clara, maturity was a time to look back with gratitude, live the present with faith, and trust in the promises of a meaningful future. Memories of the past, a path of pain and redemption. Closing her eyes, Clara let her memories carry her back to her childhood. She grew up in a small village in the interior of Bahia, where life was marked by simplicity and faith. She recalled afternoons running through the fields with her cousins, stories told by her grandmother by candlelight, and prayers before bedtime. Her grandmother, Donna Rosa, used to say, "God sees what no one else sees, my daughter." Those words became a beacon, guiding Clara through moments of darkness. Life tested her faith in many ways. 15 years ago, Clara faced the devastating loss of Antonio, who passed away after a sudden heart attack. The pain of losing her partner of decades was overwhelming. Nights of tears, unanswered questions, and emptiness left deep marks. Even so, Clara found strength in her faith, believing that Antonio was with God and that she was not alone. That experience taught her that healing comes gradually, and that God is a father who wipes away tears and restores broken hearts. Memories of her children were also a treasure. Clara smiled as she recalled Mariana, at 4 years old, trying to teach her dolls to read, or Rafael, who loved exploring the backyard in search of adventures. But there were challenges. When Mariana in her youth struggled with depression, Clara suffered in silence, praying ceaselessly. With support, therapy, and faith, Mariana recovered, and today she was a devoted mother. For Clara, this was proof that God hears every cry, even the silent ones. Clara also remembered her courtship with Antonio. They would walk through the city's markets, dreaming of a life together. They married in a humble but love-filled ceremony and built a life of partnership. Those memories were like a balm, bringing peace on days filled with longing. Everyday stories, the joy of grandchildren, and faith. Her grandchildren, Ana and Pedro, were Clara's light. When they visited, the house came alive. Ana, 9 years old, loved sitting with her grandmother to hear stories or help tend the plants. "Grandma, does God really listen to us?" she asked with shining eyes. Clara answered with warmth, sharing how God had answered her prayers over the years. Pedro, 6 years old, preferred running through the yard, playing with a ball or exploring the garden. Taking care of the house was a source of peace. Clara kept the backyard blooming with roses and basil she planted herself. The living room, with family photos and a small altar, was a sanctuary of memories. The wardrobe held the letters Antonio wrote to her, and the bookshelf displayed poetry books she read on quiet afternoons. For Clara, the house was a reflection of her faith and love. She loved cooking, and the aroma of seasoned beans or an orange cake drew the grandchildren to the kitchen. Health required care. Clara dealt with rheumatic pain and occasional insomnia, but didn't let it bring her down. She walked in the mornings, drank herbal teas, and joined a women's group at church, where they shared prayers and support. There she found friends like Donna Lucia, with whom she exchanged laughter and advice. "Age brings limitations, but it also teaches us to trust," Clara said. She believed that caring for the body was an act of gratitude, and nurturing the soul with faith was what kept her strong. In daily life, Clara cherished simple rituals. She woke early, lit a candle at the altar, and prayed. Sometimes she read the Bible or wrote in her notebook, noting thoughts and gratitudes. These moments connected her with God and herself, bringing clarity to her heart. She also stayed in touch with her children, calling to check on them or sending loving messages. Reflections. Faith as the source of healing. For Clara, faith was the key that opened the doors to restoration. Inspired by God's promises, she found strength to overcome any pain. Every morning she read a verse and prayed, "Lord, guide me and restore me." She believed God saw her in every moment, even in tearful nights, and that His love was greater than any mistake or doubt. Faith helped her face the uncertainties of maturity. At 62, Clara thought about the future. What do I still have to live for? Will my grandchildren be okay? Instead of yielding to fear, she chose to trust. Inspired by the idea that God turns deserts into springs, she felt her life still had purpose. She wanted to be an example for her grandchildren, showing that faith brings peace and that age is an opportunity to live fully. Clara also reflected on forgiveness. She had learned that holding on to grudges was like carrying stones. When she faced misunderstandings with relatives, she could have closed herself off, but she chose to pray and seek reconciliation. That gesture brought peace. Forgiving is letting God act, she thought. This practice freed her, allowing hope to return to her heart. Gratitude was another constant lesson. Clara learned that giving thanks transformed her perspective. She noted 3 good things each day, from grand moments like Anna's birth to simple details like the scent of flowers. When we are grateful, God multiplies blessings, she said. Her gratitude notebook helped her see beauty even on cloudy days. Clara also thought about time. With age, days seemed shorter, and she wondered if she had lived fully. Have I loved enough? Have I made a difference? These reflections led her to change habits. She started visiting friends more often, writing poems for her children, and revisiting hobbies like tending plants. Life is a gift and every day is a chance to bloom, she thought. Promises and hopes, a future of peace. Looking to the future, Clara dreamed of simple but meaningful days. She wanted to watch her grandchildren grow, perhaps travel to a historic city like Ouro Preto, where she could admire the architecture and feel God's presence. She dreamed of compiling her poems into a small book for the family, sharing stories of faith and resilience. "I want my grandchildren to know that God never fails," she said. Clara also had spiritual promises. She believed God still had plans for her, even in her later years. Inspired by the idea that faith transforms ruins into glory, she felt called to help others. In the church group, in conversations with neighbors, or in messages sent to friends, Clara wanted to be a channel of hope. "If I can bring peace to someone, my mission will be fulfilled," she thought. Her hope extended to her family. Clara prayed that Mariana and Rafael would find balance in their lives, and that Ana and Pedro would grow up with faith and kindness. She knew she couldn't control the future, but she trusted that by surrendering her worries to God, everything would align. "God is the river that carries us," she reflected, recalling her grandmother's words. Clara also dreamed of strengthening the community. She thought about starting a reading group for seniors or teaching gardening to young people at church, sharing her love for plants and faith. "No matter the age, there's always something to offer," she said. She believed every act of love was a seed that blossomed into blessings. Life as a garden of restoration. Clara compared life to a garden. Each phase, childhood, youth, maturity, was a season. In childhood, we plant dreams. In youth, we water them with courage, facing storms. In maturity, we harvest fruits but also care for the soil, pruning what no longer serves and planting new seeds. At 62, Clara felt her garden was flourishing, but there was still room for new colors. Challenges were like storms that shake the garden. Antonio's loss was a gale, leaving her heart in pieces. But with time, faith helped her replant. She learned that healing comes gradually, like buds sprouting after rain. A garden isn't perfect, but it's alive, she thought. Faith was the root that kept her steady, and love the sun that made her grow. Clara valued the small things. A smile from Ana, a blooming flower, an answered prayer. These were the most precious flowers in her garden. Her gratitude notebook helped her see beauty in the details, even on tough days. "When we give thanks, the garden comes alive," she said. The power of communion. Clara had learned that communion is a healing force. In the church group, she found support and friendship. Sharing stories, praying together, and laughing with friends was like watering the garden of the heart. Alone, we are fragile. Together, we are strong, she thought. She believed God's presence manifested in unity, bringing peace and restoration. She also valued generosity. Even with limited resources, Clara made a point to help. She gave plant seedlings to neighbors, offered words of comfort, and sometimes simply listened to those who needed to vent. "When we share love, it multiplies," she said, inspired by the promise that generosity attracts blessings. These gestures brought joy and strengthened her faith, a legacy of hope. Clara knew her greatest legacy was spiritual. She wanted her grandchildren to grow up knowing that faith is the foundation of a fulfilling life, that forgiveness frees, and that love overcomes any pain. So she told stories, sang hymns with Ana, taught Pedro to pray, and wrote poems for her children sharing life lessons. "My grandmother taught me to believe, and I want to pass that on," she said. In the community, Clara was an example. She participated in church events, helped with charity campaigns, and always had an encouraging word. Doing good is planting seeds of light, she thought. She believed every act of love made a difference in the world, a future illuminated by faith. Looking at the horizon, Clara felt peace. She knew old age would bring challenges, perhaps more pain, perhaps goodbyes, but she also knew each day was a chance to live with purpose. She wanted to learn something new, like painting watercolors, or spend more time writing poetry. She dreamed of traveling with her children, even if just to a nearby town, and savoring every moment with them. Above all, Clara wanted to be a reflection of divine love. She believed her life, with its scars and joys, was a testament that God restores. "If I can inspire one person to trust, to forgive, to love, my mission will be complete," she thought. As the sun set, Clara lit the altar's candle and prayed. The verse of the day spoke of renewal. "Behold, I make all things new." She smiled, feeling her heart warmed. Life wasn't perfect, but it was rich in faith, love, and hope. "Lord, may my life be a praise to you," she whispered. Clara stood up, ready for the rest of the day. At 62, she knew there was still much to live for. Each sunrise was a new page, a chance to plant, water, and harvest in the garden of life. And on that path she walked lightly, knowing that God guided her today and always.